Hey guys, Chris Giswaldi here again, Executive Chef at Metropolis Country Club. I hope you are all doing well and staying warm. It's a little chilly out there. Maybe you guys are in Florida. Be safe. Today I'm gonna be making corn and lobster chowder. I promised Marla Solomon like a year ago that I would give her a recipe for chowder, but my recipes are big enough to fill the pool at Metropolis Country Club. So now that I have time, I said to myself today, let me make that recipe and let me make it into a video also. So I'll have one extra video in case I get bogged down and don't have time to do them. So today we're gonna do a corn and lobster chowder. If you don't eat lobster, you don't have to put it. You could put shrimp, you could put crab meat, you can use anything you want, mushrooms, butternut squash. Your basic chowder is normally gonna have a few ingredients that are always gonna be in there. Bacon, potatoes, and it's gonna be thickened with a roux, flour and butter. That's the classic way to make chowder. It's gonna be nice and creamy and thick, okay? Love it. Chowder's one of my favorite soups. Nice New England clam chowder. But today we're gonna leave out the bacon. In the recipe today it's gonna be onions, celery, potatoes, which I diced, and I'm keeping them in water so they don't oxidize. Some corn that was cooked on the cob and then taken off the cob. If you don't have time, just use canned corn. A little bit of parsley to finish. We have butter, flour. This is gonna be our roux. So we're gonna start in the pan with the butter, sweat all our vegetables. We'll dump the flour in, cook it for a few seconds with no color, and that's gonna be our thickening agent. A little bit of milk, some heavy cream, salt. Normally you would use white pepper in a white-based sauce or soup. I like the flavor of black pepper, but feel free to use white pepper, cayenne pepper, any kind of pepper you want. We have our chicken broth on the fire. A little bit of dry thyme. You can use fresh if you want. And I didn't have any Old Bay, so I'm using a little bit of Cajun spice. You don't have to if you don't want to, okay? Going to show you a couple of knife skills first. And normally when you're making a soup, you want to cut the garnish, not too big. It needs to fit on the soup spoon, and it should be easy to eat. As crazy as the world that we live in now, to this day, I still haven't seen anybody eat chowder with a knife and a fork. Should go on a spoon. You should get garnish in every single bite. You shouldn't have to fish for that one piece of lobster or one piece of shrimp. Bite size, easy to eat. That's the way the soup has to be. Okay, so got my chef's knife. Gonna show you how to cut the onion, celery, and a potato. I'm not wearing gloves today. My hands are clean. It's impossible for me to cut vegetables with the glove on unless I cut this finger of the glove off, which I do a lot. Vegetables are gonna get heated, so you don't have to worry about any contamination. Celery, it's a long piece. I like to cut things in more manageable sizes, so it's easier to cut. Again, I'm holding the knife like this. I'm much more comfortable like this than like this or like this. Fingers are down, index fingers out, thumb is hidden. The knife is right up against that finger. And this is going to be the guide. This will determine how thick or thin and how consistent your cuts are, okay? So, flat surface, much safer than this, okay? Finger down, knife, cut. Finger down, knife, cut. This is no good because you might cut your thumb. Now very carefully, Gonna put the knife in the center of the celery. You don't want it rocky, you're gonna cut yourself. Hold it, cut it in half. The big one you can cut it in half again. Line it up, finger, decide how thick you want them or how long. Move your finger. You're never gonna cut yourself like this. Sharp knife. Okay, don't ever work on a surface that's rocking. It's gotta be flat, steady, sturdy. Fingers here, cut. Fingers here, cuts, cuts. Guide, cuts, cuts. And it's much easier to use this part of the knife opposed to this. Look. So much easier, and it's less work for you. Okay? Hold it, cuts. Hold it, cuts. Hold it and cuts. And again, this part of the knife. Easy. It's easy. If you don't believe me, just try it. That's your onion. Normally, I would cut the onion like this all the way down and then go under and cut, like if I was doing rice. But for this one, I'm gonna cut it in half. I'm gonna pull some of the layers off and I'm gonna dice my onion. That's the difference between dicing and mincing. Okay? Watch that thumb. Grab a few layers and don't do too many because then it gets too high and your knife is up too high and your chance of getting cut are greater. Be careful. If it's not flat, hold it the way I showed you. Okay? All this can be done the day ahead of time, and then you can make the soup in 15-20 minutes, okay? Now we're gonna do the potato. I like to cut the ends off. Cut the ends off. You can put a paper towel down and peel the potato directly onto that, so it's easier to clean. I don't want to waste the paper towel. Peel. The potato is a little green. Must be an Irish potato. You notice I keep my board nice and clean, nice and organized. Flat surface, we're going to create a flat surface. So hold it like this, nice and steady. Cut one end off, nice and steady. Cut it once, twice, 3 times. Fingers, your guide, boom. I'm not worried about perfect squares. I'm making a soup and I don't want to waste too much. I wouldn't go any higher than this. I just do whatever's comfortable and whatever makes sense to you. Okay? I'll just put these in water, put them in the refrigerator. I'll use them for something else tomorrow. If the water starts to turn a little brown, just rinse them. You can keep these in the refrigerator in water for a week. Okay? Remember, clean your knife like this. Not like this, you could get cut. And always walk with your knife like this. And try not to put your knives in the sink, it's dangerous. You can get cut going into the sink, okay? So we won't need this right now. Just get rid of this. You see I put this little mat underneath my cutting board so my board isn't moving. You can use wet towel, wet paper towel. Okay, so we're gonna come over here. Hands on the fire. We're gonna add the butter. And we don't wanna brown the butter. We just wanna melt the butter. Okay? Gonna melt the butter. Well, it looks like a lot of butter. You need about 4 ounces of roux to thicken one quart of liquid. Okay, so to make 4 ounces of roux, you need 2 ounces of butter. You measure that on the, you weigh that on the scale, and you need 2 ounces of flour, and you also weigh that on the scale. And you dump the flour in all at once. And I like to mix it with my wooden spoon. This is a plastic spoon. It looks like a wooden spoon, so I call it the make-believe wooden spoon. A lot of times you're going to make your roux in a separate pan and hold it and use that to thicken your sauce or your soup at the last second. But this one we're going to melt the butter. We're going to add the celery and the onions, pinch of salt and pepper. We're going to cook those till they're soft and translucent. Then we're going to add our Cajun spice and thyme. We're going to mix that in. We're going to add the flour all at once with the vegetables in there, everything all together. Make a paste and cook it on low heat for a couple minutes just to cook out the flour a little bit. And then we're going to add our broth a little bit at a time. Mix it with the spoon. You could also mix it with a whisk if you like, but it's impossible to make lumps if the roux is hot. When it's cold, it's a different story. So I'm gonna add the onions, the celery. Turn my heat up a little bit. I like to season my item the minute the first thing hits the pan. The first ingredient goes in the pan. So a little bit of salt. And remember what else is going in your soup. There might be some salty ingredients, so be careful with the salt. You could always add more. Little pepper. If you're not interested in using the butter, just use some canola oil, olive oil. You need some sort of fat in there to make the roux. In the 80s and 90s, the chefs all got away from roux. Now roux, like everything else, is making a comeback. Let those cook, no color. Gonna add the spices. It's your soup. If there's something in here you don't like, you don't have to put it. If you want to substitute, you can. Gonna add the flour all at Now if I was adding, this is the roux, okay? With your vegetables in there and your spices, okay? If I was cooking with bacon, if I was putting bacon in the soup like you normally do, I would have melted my fat, added my bacon. When the bacon was almost brown, then I would add my onions and celery and just continue with the recipe. Okay, now we're gonna add some stock. And we're gonna stir until it's smooth, and you will never have any lumps after that. Okay, it's gonna get very thick. The roux doesn't come to its maximum thickening quality until it comes to a boil. You can see how thick it is now. It's nice and smooth. Add more stock. And stir it till it's smooth again. This is a very easy soup to burn also. It'll stick very easily on the bottom of the pan and burn. No bueno. Okay, it's starting to get real thick again. We're going to add the rest of the stock. Keep an eye on our fire. Stir it till it comes to a boil. Taste your soup throughout the cooking for seasoning. You want to taste it and make sure the celery and onions are cooked. Definitely want to make sure your potatoes are cooked. And again, this is not going to be at its thickest till it comes to a complete boil. It's going to look thick, but if it doesn't boil, the flour won't hydrate and thicken to its maximum potential. Want to make sure you get in the corners so nothing burns. Okay. I'm going to drain my potatoes. I don't need the water in my soup. Once we get everything in this soup, it's probably going to take about 20 minutes to cook it. Make sure the potatoes are cooked. Those potatoes are also going to help the soup thicken a little bit. Okay. I'm going to add my milk. Going to add my cream. Going to add my potatoes. Going to add my corn. Now the only thing left to add is the parsley and the lobster. And that you're going to add when you're ready to serve the soup. You want the parsley to be green and fresh, and you want the lobster not to be tough and chewy. Okay, so I will see you in another 20 minutes, and I will show you the complete soup, and then we'll plate it, okay? Hey guys, we're back. We've had the chowder simmering. It was pretty much exactly 20 minutes. And throughout that 20 minutes, we were stirring it, all the way around the edge of the pan and in the center, because it will stick. We tasted it every couple of minutes and carefully seasoned it with salt and pepper. It's the perfect consistency right now. I'm going to show you. You can see it's a beautiful consistency. Every spoonful is full of garnish. So let me take one of these potatoes. And you can taste the potato, or you can just cut it. You can see, that's how I tell when I'm making a puree or something. These are cooked beautifully. They've released a lot of starch to thicken our soup. Now we're gonna add the lobster. It's already been cooked. And we're gonna just leave it on the fire for like a minute just to heat it. Let that heat up for a second. A minute, you'll be ready. Back to the chowder. If that was New England clam chowder, you would have just substituted clams and clam juice for the chicken broth. If you wanted to, or we wanted to, we could have used lobster stock or shrimp stock or crab stock instead of the chicken broth. It's all up to you. And you can see we have the perfect pan for making chowder. It's wide, but not too wide, and it's not tall and slim. Okay, it's the perfect pot for making chowder. Cooks beautifully. Doesn't reduce too much because it's too wide. And if it was a high, long pot, it would definitely burn. Okay, so we have our soup here. We give it a taste. And it's beautiful. Okay? We're gonna serve ourselves. Gonna stir very nicely all the way on the bottom. Want to make sure we get everything mixed up nice. Like I said, I love chowder. So nice ladle. And we'll garnish it with a little bit of parsley. And you can put some crackers on the side if you like. There you have it. I hope everybody's happy with this. See you soon.